Hello, today with President Chagulanyi Sentamu Robert Bobi Wine in Italy, talking about human rights violations in Uganda, torture, abductions, and so many more. Please join us in today's conversation.
Allora, buongiorno a tutti. Conferenza stampa del film Bobi Wine Ghetto President. Abbiamo con noi oggi il produttore John Batzek, il coregista Christopher Sharp e naturalmente il protagonista Bobi Wine. Welcome, benvenuti vorrei chiedervi subito, perché da questo diciamo nasce tutto, come è avvenuto il vostro incontro, da quale scintilla è nata l'idea di raccontare Bobi Wine e come si è sviluppato il progetto in questi anni e se ha cambiato forma, ecco, mentre proseguivate.
So I met Bobi and Bobi in 1997. No, yeah, 2019. Sorry, 2017. And I'd been born in Uganda, and my father was born in Uganda, so I had a big connection. I knew about Bobi's music before, so I was already a fan of him. And when I first met Bobi and Bobi, I was just amazed by them. I was firstly amazed by their courage, because I realized that Bobi had just become a member of parliament and he'd been this incredibly successful musician who had grown up in a ghetto in Kampala, and he had pulled himself out of that. He had become a huge musical star. Everything was going incredibly well for him. He had this most beautiful wife. He had 4 beautiful children. And then he decided to risk everything and become...
You hear that? 4 beautiful children, beautiful wife, and he decided to risk everything.
I'm a member of parliament for an area in Kampala. And in a way, it just struck me as just such a crazy thing to do, because everything was so perfect, and I knew that anyone who stands against President Museveni, who'd been in power at that point for 35 years, was risking everything, because this is not a country which has elections as we know elections. This is a military dictatorship, and Museveni doesn't tolerate people who stand against him. And I knew he particularly wouldn't tolerate someone like Bobi Wine, who through his music was able to communicate with the people. Uganda has an incredibly young population. The average age is, I think it's 16 now, yeah. And 80% of people are under 35. So Bobi was able to connect with them. And when I met Bobi and I heard the story, I mean, it sounded like a synopsis for a feature film. And I thought, this is such a compelling story. And because I had this big connection with Uganda, I felt that we really need to make a film, and Bobi said yes. And then I met up with Moses, who was my co-producer, who is a Ugandan and a fantastically brave and courageous man. I'm afraid he's not with us today as a co-director. He's actually just gone to Telluride, so we'll be all meeting up with him. But he was the co-director on the film, and together we were able to follow Bobi for 5 years. And that's how we met.
Mm-hmm. And John, how il fatto di seguire Bobi in 5 anni che hanno cambiato la sua vita e magari chissà in futuro anche il destino di un intero paese, è stata un'operazione pericolosa, perché sembra che tutto quello, da quello che si vede nel documentario, tutto quello che ruota intorno a Bobi a un certo punto diventa materia che scotta, diventa pericoloso.
I mean, in many respects, that's a better question to ask Chris and or Bobi. I was safely in London as the producer, watching footage and sitting in an edit and helping Chris and the editor edit the film. But you heard the question.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's extremely dangerous, and it became more and more dangerous. Moses was at the forefront when it became particularly dangerous towards the end during the election, and he actually was shot at.
Sorry.
Shot in the face, and he actually spent some days in prison. Anyone in Uganda associated with Bobi runs great risks. People disappear, people get tortured. It's fraught. And we were just talking about it just before we came in here. They deliberately pick people up, torture them, and the aim behind that is to make other people afraid. So anyone who's seen to be filming Bobi or supporting Bobi is really, really in trouble. So yeah, it was incredibly dangerous. I mean, Bobi will tell you what has happened to people around him.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, at such a time, I don't know what exactly to talk about and what not to talk about, because it's so much. As a matter of fact, I was almost complaining to my producer that the impunity is not shown to its maximum. And he was explaining to me that we cannot just show violence. It's terrible what's up there, what's happening. I'm just glad that this film is giving opportunity for the first time to show to the Western world what exactly is happening in Uganda. For 36 years now, General Museveni has been very smart. He has succeeded in painting a rosy picture to the world out there and to keep the oppression of the people of Uganda covered up. I hope we can show it. Of course, while I speak here, many of my friends are missing, many others are in prison, and many are underground, killed by the regime. So, apart from the questions that you will ask me, and I'll be answering one by one, I don't know where to start and where to end.
Ecco, allora una delle domande è l'idea di essere protagonista, diciamo, di una storia che poi è una storia, la storia di un uomo, è la storia di un musicista, è la storia di un aspirante presidente. Ecco, tutto questo la spaventava o l'ha percepita subito come un'opportunità, come dire, che non si poteva trascurare?
For me, it was neither a choice nor an opportunity. I did not get into this because I was brave. No, I keep getting scared every now and then. There was no option, you know. While I know that it's dangerous to be doing this, there's one thing that is more dangerous, doing nothing at all. The danger now is focused on me and the people that dare to support the ideals that I represent. But there's a bigger danger for people out there that are voiceless and, need somebody to speak out for them. So I've been keeping away from politics for a long time, and I was comfortable. Back home, it's comfortable not to think. The safest thing is to ignore the injustices that are ongoing. Unfortunately, I come from the ghetto, and I knew that if I don't rise to the occasion to represent these people, then nobody would, especially in this time where all the intellectuals, all the professionals are feeling safer, not antagonizing the regime, carrying on their comfortable lives, and, hoping that maybe a miracle will happen. I didn't believe in miracles like I don't believe in them now, and I believe that we had to do something about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Quello che accade in Africa e nella maggior parte dei paesi dell'Africa
No miracles. Never believe in miracles. You have to fight yourself. The president doesn't believe in miracles. You must work hard to achieve what you want to achieve. So never believe in miracles.
non arriva nelle news né in Europa né negli Stati Uniti probabilmente. Allora mi chiedo, e questo magari John può risponderci, in questo caso, proprio in questo caso il cinema può essere un veicolo importante e insostituibile perché, come dire, quantomeno si sia informati di quello che accade, non dico avere una coscienza, ma almeno che anche in Europa e in America si conosca quello che sta accadendo in questi paesi.
Absolutely, yes, and that's you know the great power of cinema, and in the case of this film, you know, I'm delighted to say that as soon as we started showing the film, you know, amazing festivals, not least Venice, you know, the best of them all, selected the film. And off the back of Venice, we're heading straight to Telluride, which is one of the preeminent festivals in America. And we have invitations to play in festivals, you know, all over Europe and all over the world, you know, that we're considering at the moment. So you know, it's an incredibly effective way of bringing this story to as many people as possible. Not least, you know, it's a 2-hour-long film. People can sit down and they can get the whole of Bobi's story, you know, in one sitting and get to understand, because he's so articulate and so brilliant at how he tells his story, him and Bobby. You know, it's an opportunity for people to really profoundly understand the situation in Uganda in a way that would take, normally if you didn't have a film like this, it would take a tremendous amount of time and effort and writing, and people would have to go to great effort to learn about this story. So, you know, it's incredibly gratifying, as I said, first of all, to be here, but then to have all these other places wanting to show the film, reacting positively to the film, and enabling us to get the story to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Sure. La musica è un veicolo importante per quello che Bobi vuole comunicare ed è naturalmente anche il cuore del film. Ecco, come avete lavorato per integrare la musica nel racconto e poi mi chiedo se appunto se Bobi non fosse stato un musicista, se avesse avuto la stessa opportunità di farsi conoscere e ascoltare oppure no.
I mean, I'll start with that. Yeah, I mean, when we started making the film, obviously we had to make a lot of decisions. We shot thousands and thousands of hours of footage over the 5 years. The music, most of the music in the film is actually telling the story. So it's about what's going on, it's about Bobi's message, it's about the plight of Ugandans, it's about corruption, and it's about violence. So it very much, we decided to use the music to tell the story, and all the lyrics in the film are actually critical to the story, and they tell it so well. Bobi uses his music and his lyrics to communicate with people. Back home, he's not allowed to perform, he's not allowed to play on radio stations, but when you walk through the streets, you hear Bobi Wine's music blaring everywhere. So you can't suppress music, because if people love it and it touches them, they're going to find a way to listen to it. And we knew that what made the film so incredibly special actually was the music. You know, we didn't want to just make this another story about, you know, this despot and elections that were unwinnable because it was a military dictatorship. We wanted to show the whole thing through Bobi and Barbie's eyes and those close to them. I mean, Bobi said to us at the end, you've just shown so little violence. You know, we interviewed lots of people who'd been tortured. I mean, just unspeakable, almost medieval torture. And we had long discussions with John and with Paul, the editor, and Moses. And we were like, you know, how much of this do we show? And at the end of the day, we thought it was going to be far more touching and far more real and far more effective to show the pain through Bobi and Barbie and what their children had to go through and what all the people close to Bobi had to go through. And I think that's what makes the film successful, is you get to know these wonderful, incredible, brave, courageous people, and you live with them. You live the 5 years and you see what had happened to them.
And also, if I can just add, the lyrics of the songs are in the movie, and so, you get to see Bobi's writing, really, and because the lyrics are so powerful and deliver the message so clearly, and it's rare in a movie, a documentary, or any movie for you to actually have the lyrics on screen. But Chris wanted to, and Moses wanted to integrate that in a very clear way, so that audiences are not mistaken in any way about what it is Bobi's saying, and I think it works really effectively.
Bobi, mi chiedevo se I suoi figli hanno visto il film e che cosa ne pensano.
Well, my children have not watched the film, but they know that a film will be out someday because they saw the cameras around us and they got used to them. I don't know what my children think, but what I have taught them to understand is that everything is real. And in the beginning, my wife tried to keep this violence, this oppression away from the children, until my wife and I agreed that this is part of us. And the sooner the children understand the reality that we're dealing with, the better. Because in the past, my children thought it's only criminals that are taken to prison. But for the many times that their father's been taken to prison, I had to be honest with them, for them to understand that, you know, this is the reality that we are dealing with. So yeah, my children know about it. My children had to grow up much earlier than their age, because that's the reality they are facing. Yeah.
E cosa sta accadendo in questi mesi nella sua vita?
Here is the question. Can you tell your children what you're going through? Can you allow them to know what you're going through? Can you bring them close to what you're going through? That's the question too. If you are in the struggle, if you are in the struggle of anything, you want to change anything in your life, you have to include your children so that they know really what you go through. That's a key point, main point from Bobi Wine, the president, because that is your life, that is their life, and that's the life you live every day, and that's the life they live every day. So they must know everything about it.
Well, what's happening in the recent months in my life and in the lives of many people is not very different from what has been happening. I continue to be, you know, harassed by the government. I'm literally an illegal citizen in Uganda. Not legally, but practically. I cannot attend a public gathering without being, you know, followed.
Apart from barriers,
cannot be allowed on radio, TV stations. My music is banned. I cannot perform, but that is personal. That wouldn't be so much of a pain. But the abductions of the people that are around me and those that support me continues. Just this morning, another friend was abducted, and he's still missing. The extrajudicial killings continue. Although now there's a big effort to gag the media. The local media does not talk about it. It is social media that talks about it, which social media is also, gagged. Facebook is banned in Uganda by the president. And, there's every effort to silence not just me, but all voices of dissent in Uganda. The oppression continues, the violence continues, the state-sanctioned abductions continue. The situation continues, although there's much less attention of international media to Uganda since the end of the election. But the government continues to do what it has been doing.
Christopher, è stato citato più volte il lavoro di montaggio, avete girato moltissimo materiale, ma poi si trattava di trovare una sintesi che restituisse il dolore di questa battaglia, insomma, che va avanti. Che che criteri avete usato per selezionare i personaggi magari che ruotano intorno a Bobi o alle situazioni da raccontare?
Yeah, we had, as I said, we had thousands and thousands of hours of footage, so we had to be extremely careful. I think we sort of made a decision just to make it as personal as possible about Bobi and Bobby's singing partner Nubian and Bobby's right-hand man, who's a guy called David Lewis. So we sort of stuck with them. Obviously, there's lots of other characters in the film, but we really focused on what they were going through. And what was just incredible, and then when we started, I just couldn't believe the access Bobi and Barbie gave us, because it was so intrusive. And we were in their houses. There was never, unless they were doing a particularly sensitive political meeting, there was never a time when they said, stop filming. And sometimes I would just be like, I cannot believe they're allowing us to film this moment of personal anguish. You know, you'd think Bobi or Barbie would say, guys, please stop. This is so personal. You know, Barbie's crying, or I mean, stop. You know, and they didn't do that, and it was extraordinary. Also, it kind of made me feel that they had nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were trying to edit the film, or they were trying to edit what we saw or what we might use. There was just total faith, and I think the faith came out of the fact they were being honest. There was nothing to hide. There was no other motive. This was what they were doing, and it was very, very straightforward. So we ended up with just a massive amount of material, which is obviously makes it very difficult because you have a lot to go through and you have a lot to think about. But I think, you know, with John's help, and then we had this incredible editor, Paul Carlin, we got something where we were all pretty comfortable with, and it's personal, which always means more.
E questo è un...
Amazing, really amazing. You've heard it. Bobi Wine never stopped them from filming everything. Whatever they could do, whatever they were doing, the cameramen, the filmmakers were allowed to film that. So amazing. Even if they were in the bathroom, taking a shower, they were free for that, for you to go and film it. You mean you film the Bobi and Barbie showering? Is what you want me to say? It's just a joke. But that's being real. I love it. Bobi and Barbie, the family is real. They never hide anything because they have nothing to hide. They are real. Whatever they say, whatever they do, whatever they eat, whatever they speak about, whatever they think about, it's real. So please learn to be real. In whatever you do, be real. Real will make you free. Bobi Wine is real. He never hides anything because he don't have anything to hide. That's a great message from the producer, Bobi Wine, the ghetto president. So sweet words.
È un racconto che sarebbe potuto proseguire ancora, perché la storia appunto non ha raggiunto la parola fine. Quando avete deciso che, come dire, era il momento di fermarsi?
Well, we sort of thought that the elections would be the full stop. We knew that it was absolutely impossible that Bobi would win the election, because you don't win elections in Uganda. But we always thought once the election's over, we'll stop. But then we sort of kept going a bit longer than we thought. And we were editing for 2 years. So we were editing way before the elections. We were already editing. So we didn't know how the film was going to end. We didn't know what was going to happen. The constant fear was whether Bobi would be killed. You know, Barbie would quite often phone me up and she'd be in tears and she'd say, you know, there's terrible things happening, that thing's happening. But we just didn't know, and it was awful for them, and also for us, it was incredibly stressful because you just never knew how this story was going to end and whether Bobi would make it. And a lot of his friends and people around him sadly didn't make it, but Bobi is still here. So we did the elections, and then there was various things we had to cover, because Bobi's main team and his best friends, not just political friends but musical friends, his producer Dan Magic and his singing partner Nubia, were locked up in military dictatorship for 6 months. No, they were charged with treason, I think it was.
Yes, treason.
And they were locked up for 6 months. So Bobi lost for the election. How many months before the election did they?
Oh, they locked them a week to the election.
A week before the election, he lost all his support. They were all taken away from him. So he was totally alone. And then for another 5 months after the election, all his friends were in prison. So you don't know what's happening to them. Just unbelievably stressful. So they were alone. And as anyone who's seen the film ends up with Bobi and Barbie, after all of this incredible effort, thousands of people, all this love, they're just in their house alone. That's it. They've just been left alone, and they're surrounded by the military, and it's just their friends are all in prison. And you can imagine how terrible it was for them, and how extraordinary.
And I must just quickly add, I rather naively, I didn't know that there was no chance that Bobi could win the election. I don't have the understanding of Uganda that Chris has, etc. So actually, even up until the election, I kept calling Chris saying, has he got a chance? How's it going to go? How's it going? And it was heartbreaking, really. It was heartbreaking. That the truth is that he didn't have a chance, because when you see the film, you'll see it's so clear that the majority of people desperately want him to be the president, and he went about his campaign in such an authentic and honourable way that the idea that actually there was never a chance for him to win hadn't occurred to me, and it was shocking to discover that that's the actual truth.
Ci sono stati dei momenti in cui avete temuto di non poter andare avanti, qual è stata veramente il...
There is a point here. Before the election day, before the campaign day, Bobi Wine and his team, these ones, the film producers of Bobi Wine, People's President, they knew he will not win. He will not be announced the president of Uganda before he was nominated as the presidential candidate. They knew, and him, Bobi Wine, too knew he will not announce the president. People will vote him, but he will not be announced by Museveni's government. So they knew that before. They were never discouraged, because they want to get something from that journey of standing up and challenge Mr. Museveni. That's the film they are talking about. That Bobi Wine knew that I'll not be announced as the winner, no matter what. Even if everybody is going to vote for me, but I'll not be announced as the winner. So Bobi Wine knew this before, and that's why he is not bothered. And all the power is in you, people power. It's you who has the key, with the key to open the doors of freedom, to open the doors of success, to open the doors of democracy in our country, Uganda. You and me, not anybody, not the army, but you, the people power. Okay.
Il momento più difficile di tutte queste riprese?
I think there was a time in 2018 when Bobi, it's a big part of the film, where Bobi went campaigning, and he was sitting in the car, and he moved seats, and his driver moved into the seat, and his driver was wearing the same clothes as he was wearing, and someone came up and killed him and shot him, and it was very clear that they intended to kill Bobi. Bobi was then trapped in a hotel. He was hiding in a room. Barbie was getting messages from him, and Barbie was telling me what was going on. And we really thought he was going to die. I mean, we thought, so that was just awful, because we thought that this is the end, and it's just, you know, a young family and a wife, and it's just too terrible for words. But somehow he survived, and he survived because there was the international community and the international, well, not so much the political community, but journalists all over the world came to his rescue, and like the New York Times and the BBC and the Guardian and all these wonderful platforms came to his rescue. I think one thing I'd like to say is, I think one of the disappointing things I felt, and I know Bobby's more an optimistic and a more generous person than me, but one of the things we felt at the end, when all of this, Bobi had stood up for democratic values that in the West and in the developed North we profess to hold so dear. We say, this is our values, we believe in democracy, we believe in it. But when someone stands up and has exactly those values, it was disappointing the way the international political community, they all came out and said, oh, the elections were terrible, you know, blah, blah, blah. They hadn't been able to send any monitors. Isn't this awful? You know, it's terrible. And then within a month, you know, they were all back doing deals with Museveni and, you know, arranging military things. And I just, you know, one of the reasons we're just so thrilled to be in Venice and be at these festivals is if the entertainment industry can support people like Bobi, they should support people like Bobi, and it's wonderful that journalists and people in entertainment and Venice and all these festivals are prepared to stand with what we know is right.
Sì, e ci auguriamo che questo magari...
So touching. This story is so touching. You remember the Arua saga? The guy is talking about Arua Day, when Bobi Wine was stayed in her car, Tundra, and he moved out. Then his driver, Yasin Kauma, seated there. Yasin Kauma was shot dead in cold blood. Who shot him? That is an indication that they wanted to kill Bobi Wine. Eventually, Bobi Wine was caught in a hotel room, hiding. He was beaten seriously, beaten terrible. And Mr. Museveni once came out and said, that was properly beaten. Who ordered for the killing of Yasin Kauma? He ordered for killing of Bobi Wine, then they killed Yasin Kauma. Who is that? Who will that be? When will that be known, revealed to the world? We are sorry, but it's a touching story. Oh. If you've heard the guy saying they thought Bobi Wine was going to die that day. But because of you Ugandans, because of you the world, because of you the journalists, BBC, Sky News, Al Jazeera, Guardian, name it, you rescued Bobi Wine's life. So Bobi Wine owe you something. It's a touching story. It's not easy to challenge Mr. Museveni. And the guy is saying what's paining him the most is the Western world. America, Britain, German, France, name them. They always talk about democratic values. They love the world where there is democracy, free life, human rights. But there are the guys who never supported the Bobi Wine. They never came out openly and support Bobi Wine. They came out after the election and said, oh, you know, the election was very terrible, bad. It was an undemocratic. But within just few months, they are back in ties with Mr. Museveni. So, who is fooling who? Ugandans, open your eyes. Mujachulira.
Magari possa accadere dopo Venezia, speriamo. Il nostro tempo è scaduto. Molte grazie per essere qui a Venezia con questo film. And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Success.
Oh, thanks. Ah, it was an amazing interview. So sweet interview. So beautiful interview. Mr. President, that's for you. Great man of all seasons. The world will always talk about you. The world will always think about you. You made it. You've done it. You've played your role. You've played your part. The rest is for we Ugandans. The rest is for me, you, who is watching this video. It's we to change our country. It's we to change the world we live in. Nobody else. If we say we want to see the good future for our children, we want to see the better world for our children, it will be because we'll fight for it. No matter what. No matter what it takes. No matter the cost. We'll do it. Because we must do it for our children, for our grandchildren. If not you, then who will do it for you? You want your children to find the world disorganized the way it is? The world must be good for your children. I think everyone wish that. So just learn from this. Learn from Bobi Wine. Learn from this interview. Learn from his coming out and challenge the Mr. Museveni, because that was only enough to show you that's your responsibility to change your life. Nobody will do that for you. I never call somebody from anywhere that you come and help me. Just help yourself. If somebody see that really you are helping yourself, you are serious, they'll just come in automatically. Name it. UPDF, Uganda Police, Uganda Police Zones. If you Ugandans, you are serious and you say we want change, we want to see a new Uganda, those guys in uniform, those women in uniform, they will join you within a blink of an eye. You've seen it. Name countries in West Africa. If the citizens say, we are tired of this situation, we must change this, and they are serious, the army, the police, the military, the prisons, within a blink of an eye, just joins them. So Ugandans need to know when to be serious and when not to be serious, and always be true to what you want. Always open that doors for your children. Nobody open them for you. So if you want a good country, a better country, a democratic country, a country where everyone is free, a country where everyone can enjoy the land, please, you must do something for this younger generation. President Bobi Wine Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert gwe tubadde naye ng'ali Italy ayogera ku nsonga ez'enjawulo eziri mu ggwanga Uganda omuli ekiwamba abantu, okutulugunya abantu, okutyobola eddembe ly'obuntu, abantu abattibwa awatali musango, wabula okuvaayo ne bavuganya oba ne beesimba ku Mwami Museveni ne bagamba Mwami Museveni kino kyoyagala ate ffe twagala kino, n'olwekyo tulowooza nti ekikyo tekina gye kitwala Uganda wabula kino kitwala mu Uganda empya ate ensuubiza era ennungi. Bobi Wine okuvaayo n'avuganya mwami Museveni kyavaamu ebintu bingi, kyavaamu ebikyamu bingi, kyaleeta okuyiwa omusaayi, abantu bangi baafa twabaziika, okubonaabona kwali kungi, mwalaba abantu abaawambibwa nejje buli eno waliwo abatamanyiddwako mayitire wa gye bali. Kibalama John Bosco yawambibwa emyaka giri kati 2 n'emyezi gijo. Kibalama John Bosco talabikako. Kibalama John Bosco tamanyiddwako mayitire. Bantu bangi baafa twabaziika, battibwa buttibwa, baakubwa amasasi, baatomerwa emmotoka z'amagye, baatulugunyizibwa, wonna nga tewali musango gwe bazizza wabula okwagala eddembe mu nsi yaabwe, okwagala Uganda ennungi eyesimisa, okwagala okulaba ku nsi empya, ku mukulembeze omupya. Just ekyo kyabattisa, kyabawambisa, kyababuzisaawo. Kibi okubanga ensi yaffe eri bweti ate nga yandibadde ekisingako wano. Twandibadde tuginyumirwa bunyumirwa okuba nti mwami Museveni amazeewo emyaka almost agenda mwana, yandibadde nga atukoledde ensi ewooma, ensi ennungi, ensi erimu eddembe, ensi eyeeyagaza, ensi etaliimu kuwamba muntu yenna, ensi etaliimu kuba muntu yenna miggo, ensi etaliimu kutulugunya muntu yenna, ensi etaliimu muntu amala gafa atyo. Uganda yandibadde esingako awo. Mwami Museveni ebyamuleeta, byagamba bakitaffe bannyaffe, byali birungi nga biwooma. Simanyi waawe byakyukira, subira naawe tumanyi waawe byakyukira. Osanga waliwo abamutomeza, abamuvuga obubi, naye yandyekubyeko mu mutima ku lwa Uganda ennungi gye tuneenyumirizaamu, gye tuneeyagaliramu. Si kyangu, si kya mulembe, tekinyuma okutulugunya munnayuganda munno bwe muli mu nsi emu just lwakuba nti akuvuganya n'ogamba nja kutta, nja kusiba, neme. Kibi nnyo, kiruma okubanga ate eggwanga lyo lyeri kubonyaabonya olw'okuba ovuddeyo okwogera amazima. Amazima galitufuula ab'eddembe. Firimu bwetyo bwetambula sofa, akatundu akatono ku yo, akatono akamu ku yo ebigirimu eya Bobi Wine People's President, nga balaga ebyo bye yayitamu, ebyaliwo n'ebyo ebiriwo mu Uganda era mu lugendo lwe olw'okuvuganya mwami Museveni. Kibi nnyo nnyini ddala. Kino nayo twatuukayo, naye twesabire tujja kuba bulungi. Mbaagala nnyo mwenna ababaddeko, mwebale kubaako, mwebale kutwagala, mwebale kutuwagira. Omukama nsaba abankuumire. Mweraba.